I'm good. How are you doing, Mike?
All right, John, let's get to it from the Yankees' standpoint. Do you believe the Yankees are going to throw caution to the wind and really attack this? Is that your thoughts for the offseason here?
Yeah, they're attacking it. There's no question about it. Hal Steinbrenner will be down there. They'll have owners' meetings as well, and he's already set up to sit in on some of the meetings with some of the bigger agents. And right now, they're looking at 12 big names that they are looking at. And I know they're going to want to get under $189 million, but they have around $100 million coming off the books, depending on what happens with A-Rod. So obviously we know Cano, but there are 11 other guys whose names I have that they are looking at, and they're basically all the big names except for some reason Irvin Santana. Actually, not for some reason. They believe that he may not be the perfect fit for New York.
All right, let's touch on some guys and tell me if you think the Yankees are the favorites or somebody else. Tanaka.
Yeah, I think the Yankees are the favorites, but they're going to go up against the Dodgers there, so it should be very interesting.
All right, Chu.
I think they're a favorite at this point. I picked Houston. I thought they would come out and do like a Jason Worth type deal, a team that needs one big star, loves that on base, but I think the Yankees could be a favorite there.
McCann.
I wouldn't pick them as the favorite just because he's playing Atlanta from Georgia, so Texas needs a catcher. I'm picking Texas, but he's got the perfect storm. Texas, Angels, Boston, Yankees, 4 big American League teams with the DH obviously available, all interested.
Yankees' favorite in the outfield would be Chu over Ellsbury and Beltran. Would that be the way you look at it?
Yeah, those are the 3 guys. So they're looking at the 3 best outfielders available, all 3 of them. I think that by a smidgen they like Chu over Ellsbury, but they're willing to look at Ellsbury, which is interesting. They'd have to move Brett Gardner, obviously.
I'm surprised they would be interested in Ellsbury, so they would be, huh?
Yeah, they're definitely interested in Ellsbury, but I was told by a hair we like Chu a little bit better, and if that's true, I would think Ellsbury will go somewhere else because I think Ellsbury gets more. I've heard other GMs with the 423 on base of Chu who like Chu more. The Mets are included in that group, but I do think Ellsbury gets more.
I think so, too. I think Ellsbury is a better player myself. I know he's more brittle. I think why? I think he hits left-handed pitching better than Chu does. That's why.
You're right. I'm with you. Chu didn't hit a homer against the lefty until the playoffs. I don't see the flaw in Ellsbury is, as you said, a little bit fragile. Other than that, very dynamic, leadoff hitter, center field. The thing with him is, though, that Carl Crawford deal is out there from a few years ago, $142 million. This is a guy willing to play center. Crawford was never willing to play center, even though he could do it. This is a guy who's always been willing and good at leadoff. Crawford only batted leadoff this year. Up until now, was not willing to do it. This is a guy who's done it in Boston. Crawford obviously could not do it in Boston. So there is a case to be made that he's as good as Carl Crawford. I know that most GMs will tell you he's not as good as Carl Crawford, but we will see come free agent time whether he is or not.
We're talking with Jon Heyman. Winter meetings, the GM meetings start Monday in Atlanta, and we'll get to the Mets in a minute. John, this one smacks of a little heresy. Will the Yankees go after Drew to protect themselves at shortstop?
They're going after Drew. There's no question about it. I know what you're saying, but they're not confident on Jeter.
Well, what do they tell Drew, though? What do they tell him? You might or might not be the shortstop?
Apparently, I don't think they're going to be dishonest with him. That would really be heresy. He obviously is an iconic player, but I think it's pretty clear they're talking about Drew. That doesn't mean they're going to get him. St. Louis needs a shortstop. I think the Dodgers will or intend to move Hanley to third base. Boston still has the qualifying offer. He will reject that, but he might want to go back there where they won the World Series. They'd still put Bogaerts at third, and obviously then Middlebrooks would be traded. More likely than go to first at that point. But
would the Yankees play Jeter at third base if A-Rod's not there next year? If they had Drew?
If they had Drew, they'd probably put Drew at
third and let Drew play third and play A-Rod and play Jeter at third?
I think so. Okay. I would think so. I mean, at this stage, Drew at
Drew's a better fielder, no question. He's got more range than Jeter does right now.
Yeah, I think Jeter's better than other people and better than the better than the stat
He's
people
very
will tell you.
sure-handed. He makes every play. He doesn't have the range he used to have, but he makes every play.
He makes every play. I still think healthy. He's good going to his right. He's good going back. He's good coming in. He's not great going to his left.
He's great on pop-ups. I agree. He's tremendous on pop-ups. I agree. I just think he's lost a little range, but he can still play the position. I don't think there's any question. So you think Drew would be okay with sliding over to third for the short term if he had to?
Yeah, it's free agency. It's about the money.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Do the Yankees back up Tanaka and go anywhere else? Do they look at a Garza? Do they look at any other pitchers that are out there?
Yeah, the names I've heard are Jimenez, Garza, Feldman, Arroyo, and Herron. They think Arroyo can be good in New York.
You know me, I like Bronson Arroyo. He's one of my old favorites. So I think he's going to wind up on the Yankees and the Mets, Bronson Arroyo. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that people think can play in a big-time arena.
He can.
He's been in Cincinnati for the bulk of his career. He was good in Boston.
And he pitched well against the Yankees in those days. He really did. I think Arroyo would pitch here fine. Listen, he's going to have days where he gives up home runs, but it's not going to affect him, and he pitches a lot of innings, and he wins games.
Yeah, probably works better if A-Rod's not on the roster at that moment, but I agree with you on everything else there.
All right. What is, in your mind, the most likely Yankee guy? Is it, if you could say right now, I think the Yankees will get this player, who would it be?
I think the two big ones we're looking at are Chu and Tanaka. If they land Chu and Tanaka, that's pretty good. And Cano, that would be pretty good. I mean, you want to get Cano back. I know he said, or at least somebody quoted him saying nobody's made an offer. That really doesn't matter at this point. Those big players generally don't get offers.
I think Cano's going to be back anyway.
I think so. I don't want to say assume. You never know what might blow up. There are surprises in free agency, but he did hire Jay-Z, so I still will be surprised.
All right, Beltran, Yankees or somewhere else?
I'm going to guess somewhere else.
Okay.
There's a lot of teams looking at him.
The Cardinals want him back or no?
I think they want him back on a one-year deal, but let's not forget they've got Oscar Taveras, who's going to be ready pretty soon. Plus, they had, they have Craig, who's obviously a full-time player, and they have Adams, who played when Craig was hurt there at the end. So they have Craig and Adams. They can move Craig to the outfield. They got a lot of players there. I could see them looking at a center fielder really long term, but Beltran to me looks like a one-year deal for them, which means he's probably gone. I see Baltimore, I see Philly. They're desperate for outfield. A lot of teams got to be interested in this guy. To me, Beltran is a $20 million player. He undersold himself at $13 million last time. And
obviously, the Yankees still have Soriano to play this year. He's going to be a big part of their outfield. Now, what would they do if they sign Ellsbury? You think they just trade Gardner?
Well, they could move Gardner to the corner, or they could trade him. Yeah, I mean, it does look pretty crowded, particularly with Granderson. It's kind of an interesting scenario.
I think he's going to get a good contract from like the White Sox or Seattle or somebody like that.
I think so. I have it at agents tell me if he were mine, I'd make him take the 14.1 from the Yankees and reset off of the year that he had. I think that it was only 1 year. There were a couple freak injuries.
I agree.
Nothing serious.
I think he gets a good contract.
He's a better player than Swisher, right? Swisher got a 4-year deal for 54.
I think he gets 3-4 years at decent money. I think he does fine.
Yeah, I agree. So I think they'll be okay. That call was left up to Cashman. So it's his hide if it doesn't work out because they do not want him back. He is tradable at 14.1, but you can't trade him until June 1st. So, he has an agent who has not been a big player out there. Matt Brown. It'll be interesting to see how he handles it. I'm kind of with you. I think he gets a 4-year deal somewhere else. So I think Cashman made the right call to offer it to him, and they'll get the draft choice. Yeah,
and it's funny when we had Brian on last time. He feels that he's gotten a bum rap on Soriano, that he really wanted him. He just was trying to hold out for less. He seems like he feels like people think he didn't want him. He kind of has at least here tried to set the record straight that he did want him.
Well, for a year, I think Levine and Steinbrenner were hankering for him. They wanted him for a long time, and I don't think that Cashman was enthusiastic for that period. I think when it came down to it, and they needed that big right-handed bat, they were desperate for it. I think at that moment, Cashman said, "You know what? We better get this guy." Talked to Chicago, was setting it up, but didn't want to give up Corey Black. Is from everything I'm hearing. At least that's what. Maybe he was just playing hardball, and he would have given up, but. from what I'm told, he was eventually told, "You're giving up Corey Black. That's it," and that was the end of it. So, I mean, I think Levine and Steinbrenner were the ones who really were the driving forces behind that trade.
Well, right move. Listen, he saved the season for a while. He sure
right,
did.
And I think Hal's very involved. You know, as I wrote on CBSSports.com today.
You think Hal is taking a very active role in these negotiations, right?
Extremely. Well, he did the Jeter deal. You know, he left Girardi up to Cashman to do that. Girardi has been Cashman's guy. He let the Granderson call up to Cashman. But you know, he seems, you know, Soriano, he put his foot down at the end, and I do think Cashman wanted Soriano by the end, so you know, you could look at it a couple different ways, but I do think Hal right now is very, very actively involved. He's going to be part of these meetings with the agents down in Orlando, and he's in the middle of it. You know, he's not like his father. He doesn't scream or yell or rip or anything like that, but he is active on the baseball front at this point.
Talking with Jon Heyman. All right, John, let's shift over to the Mets. Do you think the Mets will be active in free agency?
They'll be active, but I think people are going to be disappointed because I don't think they're going to be getting Chu. From everything I'm told, that's the guy that they covet, but I'm also told that they don't believe he's a $100 million player. And if you don't, you know, Hunter Pence got $90 million and went back and got a full no trade from a team that he won a World Series with a couple of years ago. To me, it would be shocked if Chu didn't get $100 million or more.
And
I know they're looking at Jason Worth got $126 million at age 32. I mean, I personally like Jason Worth a little bit better, but they're fairly comparable players. So, you know, he's going to get over $100 million. If the Mets don't change their tune on this, I don't see how they get him.
Where else do you think the Mets are going? Will the Mets...
They need a corner outfielder.
Right, well, no question. And I know Sandy would love to bring home a new shortstop, but the question is, will he?
Yeah, they definitely need a shortstop. I wouldn't personally go for Peralta. It's a thin, weak market at shortstop. Of course, you'd love to try for Tulowitzki. They do match up. They do have young pitching, but everything we hear so far, at least publicly out of Colorado, is no deal. They want to trade Tulowitzki or Carlos Gonzalez. So, you know, that free agent market is rough. You know, Stephen Drew's going to be having a lot of options. He's going to be overpaid, whatever he gets.
You know, I'd go after Granderson if I were the Mets. I think he's a decent fit there. I really do.
Not bad. Not bad. You know, I mean, the problem was a few years ago when they took the consolation prize, it was Jason Bay, terrific individual, obviously did not work out at all. Rather than wait around for a holiday, who got $120 million worth every penny of it, you know?
Yeah, hey, listen, they did. They went, and the reason, too, was they thought that Bay was going to pull home runs like he did in Fenway Park, and he never pulled the ball in Citi Field. It was unbelievable.
Got off to a slow start, and then, you know, it was such a hard-nosed player, ran into that fence in L.A., and, you know, you wonder if that's what really caused him to not be productive as a Met. I'm really not sure. He was a terrific individual, fielded better than we thought, but clearly was not worth anything near that 66. I mean, that goes without saying.
What else do you think the Mets are up to, John?
Well,
I know they want to bring Marlon Byrd back, right, if they can.
Yeah, I hope not. I mean, to me, I'm skeptical of the whole Marlon Byrd scenario. And, you know, it's Bartolo Colon. How is he doing this? You know, this is a guy who was suspended. We have to be realistic here.
He did hit a lot of long home runs last year. So.
Oh, my God.
He did.
I mean,
he had some bombs.
People thought he was done. He was the worst player in baseball. Was that the year before, I think, now, when he was with Chicago and Boston?
Yep.
He was the worst player in baseball, statistically. All of a sudden, he hits all these home runs. I mean, I'm sorry, I got to be skeptical.
And bombs, too. He was hitting long home runs, too.
He was great.
Yeah.
He was great.
He had a great year.
Helped Pittsburgh get to the playoffs and helped them beat Cincinnati, and he was terrific. But, you know, I'm sorry to be skeptical, but here's a guy who failed the test and has been associated with Conti for a long time. So, sorry, I have to be skeptical on that one.
All right. So, what do you think? Do you think they'll make their fan base at least reasonably happy here, or do you think it's going to be another lean free agent period for the Mets?
Yeah, I mean, I think if they get Chu, they'll be happy. I mean, would they even be happy with Cruz or with Granderson at this point? And I'm not as skeptical on Cruz, and I understand he had a biogenesis suspension, but he's had pretty consistent home run numbers over the past several years. They need a corner outfielder. They have to come back. they can't just put it together like they did last year. I know that Young did a nice job for them, and obviously Lagares was very good, and they're going to give him a shot in center. They had a couple surprises in the outfield, but they need a guy to complement David Wright in that lineup.
I agree.
A left-handed hitter. Chu is the guy that they need to go out and get. And, if they don't get him, I'm not sure. How do you see the Mets as a contender? I'm not sure. Unless you go out and something happens with Cargo or Tulowitzki or one of the trade people. But in terms of the free agents, I think Chu's the guy that they have to go for.
And do you see them going after one of these pitchers to fill in for a year?
Yeah, they're going to get a pitcher, but it's going to be an innings eater type pitcher. I don't think they're going to go out and spend.
Where do you think Garza's going to go?
Their pitching is good.
Where do you think Garza's going to go, though?
Garza could go to. I could see Seattle. There are a number of teams that Toronto. I could see for Garza.
Okay.
He's going to get a $75-80 million.
And Tampa's going to, without question, trade Price.
In my mind, they're going to for sure because that's the way they operate. That's their MO. They traded Shields with 2 years to go. They're going to want more, and they obviously did well with Shields. They got
Will Myers. Yeah, who's a good player. Yeah.
Very good. Might be probably the rookie of the year. So
gotcha.
This is a guy we're talking about, former Cy Young winner. So they're going to want more, and LA's involved, and Philly's going to want him. There are a lot of teams that are going to want David Price. So I'm sure he's going to be traded. I'd be shocked.
In closing, and we'll talk with John, of course, next week. In closing, the MVPs, we know the three finalists in each league. Question for you, do you think Cabrera's power outage because of the groin, and it was injury-related, only 2 extra base hits since the last week in August, do you think it cost him the MVP?
Nope, I'm fairly sure he's the MVP.
Okay, how about the National League? Which one of the three you like?
I think McCutcheon's the winner. I think that if someone wants to tell me Yadier Molina's the MVP, I'm fine with that. He's, to me, the best defensive player by far in baseball, at least in terms of impact. I don't know why he didn't get the Defensive Player of the Year. That's not a writer vote, so I'm not taking any blame there. But to me, he's a great, great player, and if someone wants to tell me he's it, that's fine. Goldschmidt had the best offensive year. I think there are too many people like Mike don't want to put a guy who's on an also-ran as the MVP.
And if they finish up next week, they open up the 18th, do you think the arbitrator will rule on A-Rod before New Year's, or you think it now will be after New Year's?
I always predict and think this is going to take longer.
Longer?
It's an ugly situation, obviously. I'm not breaking any new ground there.
So you think it'll probably be after the holidays?
I think he's going to take as much time as he needs. It's a pretty open-ended how long he can take. So I think he's going to take a while.
All right. We'll talk next week. Thanks, John.
All right, Mike. Thanks.
Jon Heyman.